Welcome to AP World History. This is Chapter 23. We'll be looking at the time period roughly of 1750 up until 1914 and the beginning of World War I. Certainly the Industrial Revolution transformed Europe and America, the Western industrialized powers, and it's going to have a profound effect on society and government, and we're going to explore that as we move through this PowerPoint. This shows a timeline of different events that took place from roughly 1700 to 1900, ending in World War I and beginning in 1914. The Age of Revolution. There certainly was a difference in people's opinions as to what they expected from government. There seemed to be a new optimism, and this is ushered in by the Enlightenment era. By the way, the secret words for this PowerPoint: Industrial Revolution. The Marquis Condorcet was a philosopher, and he believed that progress was inevitable. He wrote The Progress of Human Mind. He believed that as technology improved and people's education and literacy improved, that the world was going to be a better place to live. Certainly this is going to be an age of revolutions between 1750 and 1914. Some of the forces of change that bring about these revolutions: of course, the Enlightenment period, that is an age of reason. Commercialism, people mass producing things, more consumer buying things, better standard of living. Also, there was an increase in population growth, and people are going to locate overseas, and they're going to locate in more densely populated cities. It's not going to be an agrarian society, but an industrial society where people live in cities more and more, and they work in factories. There are a couple of notable revolutions that take place, particularly the American Revolution that starts in 1775, and we officially declare ourselves Americans 1776 as Independence Day, and we will fight an 8-year war with Great Britain and eventually win our independence. We will establish a new constitution in 1789 that is the one used at present in the United States. Philosophers seemed to challenge the status quo. They weren't going to accept absolute monarchies. Merchants, businessmen, the proletariat, or the working class is going to demand more voice in government. The upper class fears their decline and tighten their grip. And as they tighten their grip, people rebel. Certainly, youth become more independent and promiscuous. People are not holding to the old ways. There's a new thinking sweeping Europe and America. Of course, the American Revolution was a political breakthrough in terms of all mankind, in terms of democracy. The French Revolution was based on the idea of democracy, but turns into a reign of terror and becomes a real threat to the established order in Europe. And so this is going to be problematic for the Europeans. In terms of the French Revolution, certainly the Catholic Church and the aristocrats held all the power. They were exempt from taxes. They were the privileged few. The vast working class and peasants suffered continuously. And it seems as though there's just no hope for them for the future. In 1787 and 1788, there were a series of misfortunes that strike France. One, she has a food shortage due to crop failures. There's an economic slump. People don't have jobs, and it's very cold. So people are suffering. And as a result of this, people get to a point where they're desperate and they feel like they don't have anything to lose. And they blame King Louis the 16th and his wife Marie Antoinette for all the problems. And they're going to demand that they have more. In August of 1789, the Declarations of Rights of Man and Citizen was espoused by the proletariat or working class assembly. This is what they're hoping for. They want to abolish serfdom, equality for at least men. They wanted to end the aristocratic privileges. They're not too enamored with the Catholic Church, and they decide to throw it out. And they want an elected parliament where they have representatives. The first real violence takes place in 1789, and this is in July 14th. And the proletariat, the workers, the revolutionaries attack the Bastille. Not too many people are killed, but political prisoners, are set free. This age of revolution moves from one stage to a next. Certainly, the church, the aristocrats, and foreign powers were nervous as to what these workers and peasants were shooting for in France. Eventually, they will shift to a more radical phase of the revolution. They will abolish the monarchy and eventually execute by guillotine the king and the queen. Then begins a reign of terror, and thousands of opponents of the revolution are killed. If you're suspected of being a reactionary or someone against the revolution, you can have your head cut off by two people reporting on you. Robespierre becomes the leader. He's convinced that he knows the will of the people, and he's the one that's most instrumental in starting this reign of terror. Eventually, his head is chopped off by his opponents. Napoleon Bonaparte will eventually fill the vacuum in 1799. He will take power. The government becomes even more authoritarian under his rule. He will declare himself emperor, and he will set out to conquer most of Europe, and he will. He has some setbacks in Russia in 1812. The cold got him, and his army is pretty much defeated. In 1817, finally defeated by the British, and then exiled to Africa, off the coast of Africa. This shows some of the pictures of the French Revolution, and its radical goal was to extermination of the aristocrats. The guillotine was invented as a humane way of killing people. Before this, they had used axes to chop people's heads off. And eventually, Louis the 16th and Marie Antoinette will bite the bullet or bite the dust. During the Reign of Terror, no one is safe. There is as a result of this revolution, a sense of French nationalism. People starting to see themselves as distinctly different from other countries, and a love of their country, this nationalism. In terms of the revolution itself, France will become an empire and really more aristocratic and authoritarian than before, or as in terms equal. Napoleon will espouse that he's trying to destroy the autocratic, the aristocrats in Europe, and he's going to spread the French Revolution through all parts of the Western Hemisphere. Although his ambitions are short-lived, many autocratic governments will be toppled, but eventually they will be restored after he's taken out. This shows Napoleon's empire in 1812, before he makes a fatal blunder of attacking Russia, Moscow. The winter got him there. Cromwell in 1815 at Waterloo, at Waterloo, 1815, he will meet his demise. and he will be exiled. After the revolution, the conservatives are going to regain a hand in controlling the politics and the social life in Europe. There's going to be three distinct groups that emerge: the conservatives,